Do you believe in God?
Growing up, I would have said yes, and then there was a period around when I was 18 that I probably would have said no. And now, welcome to this week's episode of Banter After Dark. What's with the After Dark thing? Well, I have a lot of these D&Ms, or deep and meaningful conversations, in my Uber, but I rarely share them with you because I called the show Funny Uber Rides. Really put myself in a box with that one. But I'm noticing that on Omegle, of all places, I'm still having these deeper, more thought-provoking conversations, and they seem very productive. So I thought, let me try share it with you guys. Let's see if you like it. This isn't as fast-paced as the regular videos, but everything is 100% real and honest. So make yourself a cup of tea, take a load off, enjoy this week's episode of Banter After Dark. I like your decorations.
No. This is my classroom. I'm an online teacher, and I teach kids. And so this is kind of like the background that I have.
How old are the kids? Like 17, 18? Do you know your biological parents?
Oh. I have a folder of like all my adoption papers and everything. But my mum and dad were like, you can look at them whenever you want, but it's up to you. We're not going to force it. So,
do you know why you were put up for adoption?
I don't really think about it because, like, in my mind, I'm guessing they gave me up because they couldn't take care of me.
Okay.
So they gave me a better life, and I definitely have a better life, like, than what it could have been.
Sure. I mean, I would never know because I've never been in that situation. But if you have that physical document, I don't know how you don't look at it. Like, the curiosity always kills the cat. I heard somebody say this, and I really quite like the thinking behind it. I like to live my life as if God does exist. But that's not to say that I believe in it. So it's like, pretty much doing the right thing in case. Oh, yeah. But it's a very hard question to answer.
You know the book?
Quran?
It's called the Quran.
Yeah.
And it says that, like, guys can have multiple wives. I'm like, what do you mean?
You're anti multiple wives.
Unless they really want to.
I don't believe you actually believe that.
No, I actually do. Like, a lot of people give me, like, crap for it. They're like, but, like, it's what's that saying?
Illegal?
No.
What about you?
Yeah, well,
do you?
I believe in science, I believe in facts, because God, it just sounds too good to be true,
Sure.
Like, it sounds like a sort of like a dictator, but like not a bad one or not a good one either.
I definitely get where you're coming from, and I think I'm the same in that I always will take a fact-based explanation over a leap of faith. Having said that, though, I think there's a lot of utility in believing in a higher power because it keeps a lot of people honest. When, like, mum and dad aren't home, the kids run amok.
I think I was going to wait until I'm 21 before I actually consider it. Just because then I'm mature and I actually have my life put together. Also, I was thinking, like, I would do one of two things. I would either not look at it at all and just forget about it, or go all in and try find them.
But I guess then you ask yourself the question: once you do find them, then what? What do you want to do? Like, what?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
you just want to have a chat, or just want to?
Because the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it. But then I do want to do it. It's just that curiosity. So,
I've seen it with people that I've met in my own life where their opinions that they generate about the world and what goes on around them is specifically related to the things and opinions that they see on social media. Mm-hmm. Somebody tweets their opinion about a certain topic, and because that opinion gets a lot of likes, they suddenly adopt that opinion themselves. Because it's like, well, the masses must think that this is what's going on.
It's not about being factually correct. It's about being having the most people agree with you, which is kind of scary, and that's kind of, that can snowball into a lot of scary shit.
When you really take a step back and you realize that there are like 1 billion people on Twitter, and it's really not an accurate representation of what you feel, and then you only follow people that have the same opinions as yourself. So you're never in a world where you're meeting people whose opinions are conflicting your own. And like, as you probably know, and I'm sure this is an experience you get from Uber a lot, there's no way that you always agree with what your passengers are saying or the opinions they may have, but it's through that dialogue that you learn about them, they learn about you, and your vision of the world is expanded.
Correct.
The social media keeps that very, very narrow and doesn't allow us to see the kind of the depth and breadth of what people think on this planet. It just doesn't.
Correct.
What would you do in this situation?
I have, and this is probably like something that, like a mentality that I've tried to like develop in the last maybe like 6 or 7 years, and that is that I decided confidently, almost like a principle of life, that ignorance isn't bliss. If I have knowledge of something, I will always try. Now, this is so much easier said than done, and there are like levels to the intensity at which this can kind of hit you, but I will always try to find out all the information so that then I know I've made like an educated decision. Easy to do when it's like something that you can be less emotional about, like probably more in like a business sense. When it comes to something like family and biological family, I want to know all the information. I don't believe in withholding information, because it always comes back to bite you. But to answer your question, like, I'd like to think that I would at least want to know who they are, but I totally sympathize with you not wanting to, because like you also have to weigh it up to go, well, what's the upside here? And if there's no grand upside other than, okay, then you know what your mum looks like or something like that, then I can see you going, well, then what's the point? So
yeah,
it's tough. That's a really tough one.
It took me back to a paper that I wrote in my first year of university that spoke about people's perceptions to the way the world worked. And my paper was topic the idea of racism and prejudice, and whether it's something that we as society can kind of break away from completely, and if there is like a clear-cut solution from a psychological point of view. I'd like to make that clear.
Sure.
And I came to like a really kind of interesting conclusion. It seemed to be, from psychology's point of view, that a large part of like the prejudice that happens in the world and the reason why we look down on people and other people is based on this simple concept called in-groups and out-groups.
In his explanation, in-groups are the people that you identify with, so friends and family, and that can even extend out to your country. For example, Australia might be one of my in-groups because it's familiar to me.
What happens kind of by nature is because there is a need for human connection, we find people that have similarities to us. We form a group, and then we do whatever we can to keep that group together because we're afraid that if it breaks apart, we're going to lose that identity. Mm-hmm. That in-group becomes part of yourself. I am Australian, I am American, I am South African, I am Indian, I am Chinese. That's my people. Mm-hmm. One really interesting thing that they found doing these in-group and out-group studies is the way that those groups view each other. And so take it like this. You have your in-group, and there is another group that you consider your out-group. If that group does something negative, you attribute those negative characteristics to it's because of their external...
cliched whatever is about that, right?
Yeah. So like it's because of their skin color that they did this. It's because of the country that they're from that they did this. Yep. But if your own group messes up, okay, so let's say somebody stole something. You say, like, he stole something because he's that ethnicity. But if your in-group then did the same action, you'd say, well, maybe he did it because he really needed the food or because he was desperate. Yep. And kind of reading through all this, it was just like, the only way it's ever going to be any better is if somehow the in-group was humanity. Like, that's the only way that it would solve our problems if we were able to see each other as one big group, and space would be the out group.
It'd just been interesting to know like where I actually came from.
Well, to answer your previous question again, like around would I want to find out, I would probably do a DNA test first. My mum did one. We got it for, I think it was Mother's Day. We got her like a DNA test because she was so interested in her, I think it was Mother's Day. So we thought there'd be something cool in there, and then she got it back, and it just said 100% Eastern European Jew. That's it. Like, that's all. It's the most boring DNA test I've ever seen. Like, you want something cool in there. You're like, maybe a bit of Jamaican or like, I don't know. So 2 points on that. One, perhaps that is possible in like thousands of years once we've all bred with each other and like there's no more races and there's no more ethnicities or anything and we're all pretty much mixed bag of goodies. So maybe. Whether that would actually happen like culturally, I don't know. But two, the only thing that would, in my opinion, bring everyone in the world together, possibly, is like finding out that a higher level of intelligence exists outside of this world, and perhaps because humans are the predator, we need to be the predator on Earth, and also we're also a very insecure predator. So if there's a being that's more powerful or smarter or more advanced than us, and we're kind of like, we have to be subservient to them, I think that would bring us together to try to take down. Because we wouldn't be able to coexist, because you got your powerful like leaders of the world, whether they're presidents or whoever, wouldn't like they speak for the world. They wouldn't have a bar of that. It's like it's command and conquer. So, but perhaps that could bring people together. I actually thought there was a chance that like when the virus came along, I was like, well, we're not actually fighting any nation. Maybe that could bring us together, but. Turns out not necessarily.
It turns out it just almost became worse.
Yeah, but I think for the first couple of weeks of it, when everybody went into lockdown and everybody was like, "Oh, this sucks," there was a cohesiveness. There was a
brief moment where everyone, like the world, they were in it together.
Yeah.
But then I think quarantine got to everyone.
Yeah, it started to frustrate too many people. They were like, "Fuck this," or they just started to do weird, fucked up shit. Are you a robot?
No.
Are you sure? You see, you're thinking about it, which means you might be a robot. And therein lies the problem.
Error 404, error.
Well, I mean, I can say now, because we've met, you say I think it's 7 or 8 times.
Yeah, 7 or 8 times, yeah.
Like, it's more than face value now that regardless of who they are, you turned out to be a pretty cool dude. So thanks for what will probably be the most interesting conversation I have tonight. Dude, what are we doing with our lives?
But it's just no.
What are we doing?
Right now we're just avoiding suicide, I think.
Do you reckon?
Because people love us, or some people do around us. And if we commit suicide, then people are going to be like sad and all that bullshit. But they'll only be sad for like, 70, 80 years, whatever the life expectancy is, and then they'll die off. So I don't see why there's such a problem.
But do you love the people that'll be sad?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a fair transaction.
Yeah, I know. I'm not a psychopath, so I won't commit suicide.
Last year I did Movember, and in one of my videos I said I can't provide any like professional help. If you have been through like a mental health issue, and you have like a story for me, just like not for cameras, not for videos or anything, just for me to kind of like be exposed to it, reach out, let me know. Like I'd love to have a chat, just because I don't know too many people that have been like affected with that stuff. And I did it for about a week, and I was just like, you know what? I think it's a nice idea, but I don't. It was starting to affect me. I was just like, and people were sending me these emails, and there was some like really intense stuff, and I was just like, fuck, you know what? I don't have the tools to deal with this stuff. So I called Beyond Blue, and I just said like, I'm not a professional. I don't want to give advice. I want to make it clear that I don't give advice, but I'm hearing these stories. I don't know how you deal with it. And like they explain to me like the courses and stuff that they do, and asked me if I'd be interested in that. And I thought about it, but I also I kind of realized like I'm just not geared to take on that information and it not become a burden. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. It's just not. It gave me so much more respect for social workers, because like fuck, it's some of that's so intense.
You know, we touched on quite a few things in today's episode of Banter After Dark, and whether you're facing a tough decision, contemplating how we fit into this world, contemplating how to better the world, or just figuring out if you should exist in this world, now's a good time to call a family member, maybe video call a family member, just see how they're doing. I've learned that our hearts can often be in the right place when trying to help somebody experiencing mental health issues, but sometimes it isn't that straightforward. At times they need somebody to talk to and to hear them out, but there are other times where they also need more. Hotlines like Beyond Blue, which is in Australia, give great advice when dealing with these sorts of things, and you can call them at any time of the day when you're trying to help a friend or a family member. Now, it's Wednesday, and we kind of have this unspoken deal that when you come here on Wednesday, I'm going to make you laugh. And you might have laughed at some stage today, but next week, I'm going to make you laugh. This Saturday, I'm hosting an online Mexican-themed party. Everybody is welcome. I'm going to share more details on Twitter in the coming days. In the meantime, be well, and I'll see you on YouTube next week.
To answer your question, yeah, in the end, I think we're just, we're surviving. I think we're looking too much at other people's successes and trying to compete. You have to do the best you can do and not look at other people. And when you do the best you can do, you feel pride and happiness in life. But when you look at other people, you're like, oh, I'm still struggling behind. But, I mean, there might be a chance that you'll never amount to what they can do.